people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
News.
Major event in jeopardy. You don't want to break that.
Right. And so now we've heard nothing from him. Do you think he ever fights again?
Professionally, I don't know. He said he was going to retire. I believe him.
You do?
Yeah.
He said he was before your fight. He said he was going to retire at the end of 25, right? So here we are, end of 25. He can't go out like this. You think so?
I believe him.
He's still so young.
Yeah.
You think he would go out on a draw? He has to. If he doesn't fight you,
he told everybody he don't really care about boxing. He told people he don't care about championships. And he told people he's gonna get his money and y'all not gonna see him again. It looks like he's doing it.
Sure.
That's why I'm saying, like, he's making me a believer.
Do you think it will be a stain on his legacy if he doesn't at least rematch you?
No, it's because he technically didn't lose. So
right, but he did.
But he didn't win either. He didn't win a fight that he was supposed to be able to win. Lamont Roach made an appearance on the Ariel Helwani show.
I noticed the line of questioning from Ariel Helwani, and it sounded like it was coming from a guy who had just started covering Gervonta Davis.
I don't say this is a knock on Ariel, by the way, but when Gervonta Davis has made so many public comments about not caring about belts and not caring about legacy, not caring how things look. Remember he said in the build-up of the Jake Paul fight that he's not the face of boxing. He's just the guy who boxes.
Remember that he said that?
So that when Ariel Helwani is asking Lamont Roach these questions that surely Gervonta Davis wouldn't want to leave out on a draw, and how would this affect his legacy? Gervonta doesn't have a legacy.
He never did.
Whatever he does have is not something that he cares about. He is shameless before the eyes of the boxing community at large and the world. So it's entirely possible that he retires.
He bows out, disgracefully.
Dishonorably, because there was never any honor to him. Never any honor about him. And I just wish that more members of the media did a better job of reflecting that, because it's almost like you're talking about another fighter. Is there another Gervonta Davis that I don't know about? Because you can't be talking about the one we do know. The only thing that might keep Gervonta Davis in circulation is that he didn't get to have the Jake Paul fight, and he doesn't get to retire on that money. He bailed on Lamont Roach for a bigger bag and a bigger fight, if you even want to call it a fight.
But it all fell apart.
And without that, I'm not sure that Gervonta Davis actually made enough money to retire on. For years, he fought in pay-per-views that barely cracked 200,000 buys. The biggest one was the Ryan Garcia pay-per-view, but that was 2 years ago, and given that Gervonta Davis is one of these athletes that has bad spending habits.
Could burn through all that money in the blink of an eye.
So what might actually keep him boxing, if he is able to box and get out of this latest legal kerfuddle, is that he didn't actually make enough to retire on.
Might not have.
But that's assuming he can actually get out of this latest legal kerfuddle where they say there's actually CCTV of Gervonta Davis assaulting this ex-lover of his at her place of work.
Though at the same time, there was CCTV of Gervonta assaulting another one of his girlfriends at a basketball game, and he was able to beat that, so you never really know. He might be able to beat this, or at minimum, make it go away quietly.
Jury's still out on that. Everything is happening behind the scenes and away from prying eyes. My opinion, if Gervonta Davis would have got the chance to have that Jake Paul fight without incident, he would have retired off of that, taken those 40 M's or however much they were going to give him on Netflix, and bowed out.
I do believe it's like Lamont Roach said. Gervonta Davis already showed all of you who he is, so you should believe him.
There was some talks about Shakur Stevenson, and then that pivoted to Isaac Pitbull Cruz. Why? How did that happen?
You know how Shakur is. Shakur is super competitive. Shakur wants to show that he's the best. I fought a guy who was considered the best at our weight class. That outcome kind of, put a lot of mix in the air. And a lot of people were probably calling for that fight for me and Shakur. Me and Shakur actually talked directly to each other and was like, we can rumble if, if it presents itself. And he was like, for sure. Like, let's do it for the fans. Been cool with Shakur since I don't know how long. And since we were amateurs, actually, I met Shakur, I was probably like 15. It's just respect there. It's just like, all right, you feel like you're the best 135 pounder. I feel like I'm the best 135 pounder. Let's give the fans a show. So he was like, they got T.O. on the table for me. So if T.O. doesn't happen, we can fight for sure. And I was always going to fight this year anyway. And Shakur wasn't going to fight this year. So I was going to fight a fight and then end up fighting Shakur in 2026. He took the T.O. route, which respectfully, is probably is more of a bigger fight and more money. So,
right.
I respect that.
I want to say that I really like the way that Lamont Roach carries himself outside of the ring, and in the ring, he is a formidable fighter. Now, I have my reservations about just how formidable he is, though all the same, he's a likable guy, he's a respectable guy, and he's about that action.
Scared the hell out of Gervonta Davis, didn't he? He arguably scared him into retirement and into the arms of what would have been Jake Paul.
So when you talk about why Lamont Roach ended up fighting Isaac Cruz instead of Shakur Stevenson, now we know why. It's because Lamont wanted to have at least one more fight before this year was out, whereas Shakur was done after the Zepeda fight.
So I still think it's a mistake. I think it's a mistake doing any more business with the PBC, who likely aren't happy that Lamont Roach, a pro box fighter, showed up their golden goose.
Ran him off to another platform to be content for somebody else. I don't imagine behind closed doors they are at all happy about that. And they may be waiting in the wings to pay him back for what he did, him none the wiser. So if by some chance he can win this weekend, he can beat Isaac Cruz.
Well, that would make a potential Stevenson fight bigger. Shakur did end up landing the Teofimo Lopez fight. Lamont, he's fighting Isaac this weekend. These are two guys who gave Gervonta Davis a lot of problems.
Isaac Cruz, a late replacement, who stood in for Rolly Romero back when Rolly had some legal trouble, he proved a harder fight for Gervonta Davis than most originally anticipated. He wanted a rematch for years with Gervonta, but Gervonta never gave it to him.
Because Gervonta realized he was a handful, and it was the same with Lamont Roach.
So now these two guys are fighting each other, and there is some value in the victor, to where if Lamont Roach wins, and he keeps his word, fights Shakur next year, while you couldn't get Gervonta Davis in the ring, you could get the guy who arguably beat him.
Unofficially.
And that could be just as good, if not better, because this guy is at least willing to fight. There's just one problem. Does Lamont Roach beat Isaac Cruz?
If Lamont starts moving then hitting, he could be in trouble. We've seen Lamont be handcuffed. When he fought Jamel Herring, he just didn't let his hands go. And he was thinking too much. He was worried about what was coming back his way. And there is a world where I could see that, where I could see Pitbull Cruz putting on so much volume and getting to Roach in a way that he starts to overthink, because he is a cerebral fighter. Every cerebral fighter has that issue. They potentially could overthink in there and just not pull the trigger. So that's always looming, especially when you got a guy like Cruz is going to put so much pressure on you. But I could also see Lamont completely shutting down Cruz and fighting from the outside, disrupting his movement, not letting him get into a rhythm, consistently changing the footwork on him. So I could see how both guys could dominate this fight.
The guys that did outbox Isaac Cruz had something that Lamont Roach doesn't have, and they were cerebral too, like Lamont, but they were taller, longer fighters. Longer legs make for longer strides and better ability to create space. We're talking about Giovanni Cabrera. He gave Isaac a lot of problems even though he lost. And what about Rayo? I picked Rayo to beat Isaac and he did. Why?
He can outbox him. He's got enough height and enough length to move around and create space, whereas Isak and those little legs, it'll be hard for him to close the distance. And it was. Where the situation is somewhat different with Lamont is, even though I think Lamont is a better boxer than Giovanni Cabrera and Rayo,
He's shorter.
he is shorter than those fighters are, tantamount to being eye level to Isak Cruz, perhaps not as difficult to get to. How could he beat a better boxer than those guys but lose?
Lose to Isak? Well, when I say he's a better boxer, that's his fundamentals, his X's and O's, the science that he applies that does not speak to the physicality of the fight. Isak, on the other hand, while not as cerebral, nowhere near, he is a durable physical specimen with more time in at this weight than Lamont Roach. Lamont is making his 140-pound debut, whereas Isak has been here for what? 4 or 5 fights now? The Rolly fight, the Rayo fight.
The Fierro fight, the guy that he fought after Fierro, Lamont will be his 5th.
His 5th fight at this weight where he is more acclimated than Lamont Roach. Lamont basically hopscotched from 130 up to 135 for Gervonta, now from 135 up to 140 for Isak. I'm not sure that's a good idea. The last fighter I saw do that was Ray Vargas when he lost to Oshaki Foster.
Moved up to 126, won a title there, then right after that moved up to 130, then lost.
Lamont is doing practically the same thing. He moved up from 130 up to 135. His next fight, he's moving up to 140. And for a PBC fighter, don't forget who the house fighter here is. Isak Cruz. Lamont is signed to Pro Box, which is why I said I don't think it's a good idea for him to do any further business with the PBC. They robbed you of the victory in your last fight. Do you think they won't do it again?
Think they're not waiting to pay you back for what you did?
You made their golden goose look bad. Their flagship fighter. You exposed him. And now you're giving them a chance to screw you over one more time. Those are the intangibles, the X's and O's. It's just like Chris Algieri said. Lamont is a characteristically cerebral fighter, whereas Isak is a pressure guy. Cerebral guys need time to think, time to work, time to move. Pressure guys don't give them that.
That's why, as simple as they are, they often give cerebral fighters a lot of problems.
Kind of fighters that are going to try to mow you down, stand in front of you, and take one to give one because they fight with the confidence that if they land, they can hurt you.
But you can't hurt them.
Lamont has exhibited respectable power at 130, halfway decent power against Gervonta at 135, but how many of you are confident that he can hurt Isak Cruz at 140, where Isak has been for a little over a year and 4 fights now? It's not even that I like Isak's boxing, because I don't. I'm actually a bit more partial to Lamont Roach, and I would love for him to not just expose Gervonta Davis, but expose his opponents, that they're not that good either.
Expose the whole fucking production. The whole gimmick.
I would love to see him win on Saturday, but objectively, I feel like by hook or by crook, it will be Isak Cruz with his hand raised. There's every possibility that he mows down Lamont Roach, who's new to the weight and can't hold him off.
Could lose that way.
Or he could lose controversially. Isak Cruz is a busy and aggressive fighter within a round. He may pick up the rounds on activity alone. What Chris Algieri said rings true. Cerebral guys might hesitate to pull the trigger when under pressure, and we may see that on Saturday. So by hook or by crook, I've got Isak. I have a rooting interest in a Lamont Roach win. I would love to see him do it, though objectively, I'm going with the house fighter.
There's an insecurity there. Eddie started working for Matchroom at 35 years old. He sees me come along at 27 and do things from my own back, off my own back, and have to go through this struggle that he didn't have to. And I think it screams every insecurity that he's got in his body. I'm not going to go back and forth with people that haven't started their own business, that haven't built things for themselves, and that don't stand on their own 2 feet. It's not worth my time. The reality is, Eddie is a great talker. He likes being in front of the camera. He went and did things on his own and ended up back at Matchroom in his mid-30s working for his dad. He talks about the fact that we have only one thing in common, that we both had the Sky contract. We have 0 in common. I had to get every contract that I had. It's not very hard to become the Sky promoter when Matchroom are already providing shed loads of sports and are already promoting boxing on Sky. The journey's completely different. It's completely unrelatable. And I think that's why he gets so touchy around the subject of myself.
I mean, you're in it for the long term.
Yeah, it's all I've ever done. I've never had a job. But as I say, do I want to be jumping in front of cameras every 5 minutes in my 50s? No, I don't.
Then you don't want to be a good promoter.
Because that is what a good promoter does, whether it's Don King or Bob Arum or Eddie Hearn. You've got to get in front of those cameras as much as you can to sell your wares. In this instance, to sell your product, to sell your boxing. And if what you want to do is control what questions get asked in interviews...
Let's not pretend that Benny Boy isn't known for that, because he is. If you want to be reclusive and soft-spoken, I don't think you're in the right racket. Ben Shalom talks about being a self-made man.
Talks about Eddie as being a Nepo baby, which I think is disingenuous, because under Barry Hearn, Matchroom was not the company then that it is now under Eddie. And the British boxing renaissance has everything to do with Matchroom. I don't think Eddie gets enough credit for that.
The big British boxing boom, and not just that, but the renaissance of women's boxing. Eddie Hearn and Matchroom have a whole lot to do with that. At one point, they were signing female fighters more than anybody and putting them on shows with more regularity than anybody in the industry. So for Ben Shalom...
Really, anybody promoting women's boxing at this point has Matchroom to thank, because they're the ones that got the ball rolling.
While Ben Shalom pats himself on the back for being a self-made man, you only got the Sky contract because Matchroom left. If not for that, you wouldn't have got it on your own. Sky would have loved for Matchroom to continue to do business with them, but instead they went all in with DAZN, which is what opened the door for you to walk through it. And under you, Sky left boxing. That's the way it is.
That's not opinion. That is fact. Whatever you did over there,
whatever it was, it didn't work, and it pales in comparison to what Matchroom was doing over there on that same platform. I am enjoying the barbs between Eddie and Ben and how personal things are getting, but whenever I hear these quips about Eddie being a Nepo baby,
I ask myself a question.
In whose shoes would you rather be in? Would you rather be a Nepo baby running a successful company that you've made bigger than when your father was running it? Would you rather be him, or would you rather be an unsuccessful, albeit self-made man?
Your company's not doing too good, your promotion, but you can always pat yourself on the back and say, I did it all myself.
Oh, this fucking mess? That was all you? Sky Sports leaving boxing.
I did it my way. Yeah, you did something all right.
Eddie Hearn may have been born into riches, but he's got the work ethic of a poor man. Anybody who's paying attention can see that. He's there, front and center, in front of those cameras, answering questions, selling his product, and being the face, being the voice. That's what a fucking promoter is supposed to do.
It's not a knock on Eddie Hearn that he likes being in front of those cameras. That just makes him better at his job. Better than you.
You know, a lot of the time I see a Ben Shalom interview and I ask myself, is this guy got anxiety or something? Is he uncomfortable in front of cameras? Because he seems reclusive.
Withdrawn.
I'll tell you something, that this is the most engaging I've ever seen him. Eddie Hearn has lit a fire under Benny Boy's ass.
Passion in his eyes.
A fire that really isn't there most of the time. Just quit the grab assing and call it straight. You only got the Sky Sports contract because Matchroom didn't want it. And after you got it, what did you do with it? Self-made. Seems all you made was a mess of things, and that's why now you're off Sky with a smaller budget.